So, man, congratulations are in order. We have a Hall of Famer on the show here, International Motorsports Hall of Fame. It was announced on Friday. Tell us about that, man.
Pretty
Congratulations.
awesome, man.
That's just one of those phone calls every athlete or everyone in the world dreams of. Their songs made of this stuff, and it was a great call to be put in the Hall of Fame with my father. There's so much history of father and son, and heck, with the forces, it'll be father and daughter soon. But I mean, uh, so much in that legacy thing, and I was blessed to be born into a family that introduced me to this sport. Without that, who knows where I'd be, what I'd be doing. So, just I'm excited for the day that we stand up on stage and get to spew all my feelings, in front of everybody. But just knowing that people gathered and thought of me as someone that was worthy of that, and my career is just, I feel blessed.
Yeah, we're happy for you, man. It's awesome, and so many people looked up to you over the years. You're well deserving.
Yeah,
my wife says I'm old. She goes, "Wait a minute, does that mean you're old?" I go, "Well, kind of, I guess."
You're old. I'm old too.
I'm old. I'm old 3. Well, let's go ahead and get to business. The racing business. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Drag Illustrated's The Racing Business with me, Jason Dukes. Once again, what a show that we have for you. I mean, we're really blessed to have all the guests that we have had on for the 2 seasons that we've been on. But we have a heck of a show for you. This week we have Hall of Famer Tony Schumacher, International Hall of Famer Tony Schumacher was just announced last Friday, and so lucky that we get to have him here on the show. Before we do that, let's do some plugs and then just do some serious life stuff. But plugs, of course, Drag Illustrated. Thank you to the West Buck, JT Hudson, all the guys at Drag Illustrated that make this happen. Of course, on my part, captain's chair coaching, because I also need to get paid. We'll do some just quick PSA things just to put it out in the universe. Guys, do whatever you want to do with it. But physical, mammogram, colonoscopy, endoscopy, blood pressure test, diabetes test, PSA, sleep test. Can't have a racing business if we're not alive. So we definitely need to be alive. All right, let's bring our guest, International Motorsports Hall of Famer Tony Schumacher, y'all. Tony, how you doing, sir?
Fantastic. Better today, man. That was a big announcement, and I feel proud of my accomplishments. I feel proud of my teams that I've been part of. Feel very blessed, just a huge thing. Kids dream of that. This is something that every kid in the world dreams of at some point. Like I said, there's songs made about it, so what a blessed career I've had.
I mean, let's talk about that. Like, on it, like what you dream about as a kid, right? Like, I'm sure at first it's like getting in a car, and then it's like race win, and then it's race champion. This is like multiple like Hall of Fame. Like, I mean, honestly, just like honest question, like, did you actually think of being a Hall of Famer as a kid, or just like winning a race, or just getting in a car, or winning a championship?
As a kid, I just wanted to drive anything, and that's true. Like, to me, with a '69 Chevelle going to the racetrack, that was the coolest thing in the world. I never thought there was even another step. Running 10 seconds in a quarter mile at 19 years old was the coolest thing in the world. And then I actually went off to Skip Barber, which is ironic. That same year and everything, but we'll talk about that later. But I went and did Formula cars, road racing, and I think just for a year I ran Formula Fords, and learning about the weight transfer and stuff like that of the throttle control helped me so much later in life in top fuel cars. But growing up with Don Schumacher, growing up with a house in Park Ridge, Illinois, with a connected race car shop, that Grandpa had built for my dad, and watching the War Eagle get painted in their Dale Pulley's car, and watching Tommy Ivo come by with his glass trailer, and no intention of me getting there, but being surrounded by it, the verbiage, the words, the excitement that the people brought to that house. I think you look back, and I drove the Army car for 19 years. Soldiers, where do they hear it from? Their fathers, their parents, their grandfathers, lineage of history of the military. And it's the same thing, most people that are in the Hall of Fame probably have some connection to someone before them that taught them the path, and I'm lucky that I was put into that position. I'm truly luckier that I grabbed it and ran with it. I think, there's a lot of people that my son, he's like, oh, I'd like to drive a race car. I said, I don't think liking anything gets you where you need to be. I'm waiting for the moment where he goes, I need to do this. And it's an absolute must. And hearing those guys, throughout my youth, really guided me here, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what the way we normally do it with the shows, we talk about all the things happening right now, and then go start from the beginning and tell any advice, any leadership stories going through there. But tell us about everything happening this year for you.
Well, so we had a deal last year. It was a long-term contract, and as it exited somehow, we had to find new people. And Joe Maynard, having ownership in the Leatherwood distillery, put that name on a car. Man, I think it's the coolest looking car I've had in a long, long time. Car's starting to run right. We struggled, for a year. We had brand new parts, brand new pieces, a lot of innovative stuff that nobody else was trying to run. And we went back to the basics, and, we're qualifying 1, 2, 3, like top half now. And I think now we just need to get the car to go down the track more often, and we're going to start winning these races. We are good at adversity. I've been doing this a long, long time. I understand the pains and sufferings that come with growing pains. And you think a guy that's got 30 years of experience wouldn't have growing pains, but trust me, I was out of a car for 3 years. I'm relearning some things too. And cars are different. Back when we started, heck, they made 8,000 horsepower, and back before that, there were 2,000, 3,000 horsepower. Every time they grow in power, every time we add a different clutch system, the way we drive it changes, and whether it's brake pressure or when you smoke the tires, how long you got to come off of a throttle pedal. And you got to 2 ears, 1 mouth, you listen to other drivers. You're going to learn something from other drivers, and it doesn't matter what I've won and what our team's done. I need to pay attention to what the cars are telling me now. And, it's just smart athlete.
And what is that like literally to be multi-time champion, International Motorsports Hall of Famer, like you said, 30 years of experience, and many of the other drivers in Top Fuel are young whippersnappers like coming up, and you're right, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Like how does like what's just the mentality, or how does that end up working?
Well, it's been like that for a long time. We're always changing. I've been through the Celsius, the Bernsteins, Perdome. Well, Perdome was right before me, but I got to watch Amato and Eddie Hill and drive with some of the greatest. I got to race against Shirley Muldowney, and I think in Norwalk one time. I mean, I just look back, and I was the young whippersnapper at the time, right? And it's just forced. All these guys, me and John Coletta, we have more laps than most any 2 other drivers combined, probably. And so when a change comes, a header angle or something stupid that we change, we're used to making one correction, and now that correction doesn't do anything, and sometimes it makes us look bad. And we got to regroup and go, wait, let's look at what other people are doing. It's part of learning. For so long we controlled it, dominated, that when things change, it's a bigger change for us because we've had more laps in a car making the same correction. And when that correction no longer works, it's a little harder for us to adjust to it.
All right. And so from the business aspects of it, tell us a little bit about the team. I know that sometime this year you guys are bringing on a second car, and then also just tell us a little bit about Leatherwood Distilling.
So Joe wanted to bring on a second team, and Ida's fantastic. She's cool and full of energy. At the beginning, I was like, wow, do we need another team? Let's focus on getting one car to run. And I always have my opinions on that, but she's just a blast. Like, she's a good kid. She's doing a good job driving the car. So we've had her tested the last 2 races on the Monday after, and she's getting it down there, and she's going to enjoy working with our guys because our guys really are top-notch championship caliber people. And as she comes over, I think we'll probably start her running in Brainerd is what I keep hearing. With her own team, but we'll have our guys behind them and making sure things go right. And, we'll just keep growing. Like my dad did it. You start with one car. We started with that Exide car, and we went out and won a championship, and it led to having another car. And then Army came. It spread and spread like wildfire as we performed well. Sponsors came, and I think it's the same thing. You know, we're growing Leatherwood leaps and bounds as a distillery out in Clarksville, Tennessee, and they're doing every time we go out with their name on the car, they get home on Monday and they can't put the stuff in the boxes quick enough, you know. And by the way, this bourbon's fantastic. You know, I'm not boasting on it because it's my sponsor, but holy, this stuff's amazing. Like, you know, kind of a little too smooth. I think we need to slow down the goodness.
No, don't slow down. Me and JT, we didn't get enough of it yet.
You know, and the other sponsors are out there. We have a lot of things going on. I think we have a lot of things happening. My wife said it best. She goes, I don't know what you did this year, but you sparked so much interest that it's just coming in, and we'll start putting names on the car. And my fear is this. I love the look of that Leatherwood car. We need to get sponsors on the car that aren't just owned by Joe, but I really like to look at that car, man. You know, heck, our old Kuma car last weekend was fantastic looking. Everyone said it's the best looking car out here. So we keep putting names on the car, and as we do that, we can start funding Anita's car and getting her on the racetrack, and it's going to be a beautiful side-by-side team. I think she'll pull her weight, and that enthusiasm. You know, sometimes you got to be reminded of how much darn fun it is, and you can see it. Because you go out there. My dad always said this does become a job, and I never let it get to me, and I never let it become a job. I kept it fun every day. I understand that there are more often than the wins you're going to lose. You know, I've won 86 races, right? 86, but lost hundreds. Right. You know, and I understand that. And what keeps me going is the fact that's just a fact. There's 16 cars, you know, and we won a high percentage of my races, but you're still going to lose more of them. You know, you're going to lose. You got to win 4 rounds to go out and win these races, and you're racing against the baddest dudes and dudettes in the world. So, you know, when it comes down to it, man, suck it up, try to win as many as you can. And when you asked earlier about did I think about the Hall of Fame, it was years and years into my career before I thought, heck, we've done some things that are worthy of an opportunity later in life. And that's as far as I thought. You know, it's when you look at the list of the people on it and the great things they've done, it's amazing. You know, it's just so cool to be a part of that world. And it's the best of the people in all sports, you know, road course and NASCAR and just all of it. And you got picked to be on that list with them. So super excited.
Yeah. You said your wife talked about that people are just, you know, you've created something and people are just coming to you. What is, you know, it's a business podcast, and a lot of people are here to learn and get some advice. Like what's your secret? Like what's your magnetic field?
Spend time with the people. You know, we race for 6 minutes a year in all reality, and the rest of the time hiding in the trailer ain't gonna get it done. Being out there doing business, working the deals that you see on the cars, putting them together, you know, whether it's VP Fuel and all the mower companies we dealt with and deal with now, like putting them together, making it work where they go, we can't afford to not be partnered with that team. And I think if it's just 50-50 and you got a guy back in the office going, okay, we could give him some money and we'll probably get an equal amount back. Where's the effort? I mean, they're not going to do that. When you make it absolutely positively a must, where they can't afford to not do it, you know, and you let it be known and let it be seen and let all the angles. And I think here, so many people go, come on, man, it's good advertising. Here's the NHRA numbers. Well, that doesn't mean anything, right? If they can run a commercial and get those numbers, then we need to explain how the business part of it's going to work, how it's above and beyond far better than a commercial and the one-on-one interaction. I think what I seek out compared to everyone's out there going, who wants to put some advertising dollars in? I'm looking around going, outside the box, what companies can we sell more of? Who can we help grow the business? And, you know, I think great, even though our sponsor left from last year, you saw how he dove into the sport with both feet because it is a great sport. So the sponsors out there that are looking around, one-on-one, if you need me to stand at the ropes and sell something for you, this is a sport. And it doesn't have to be me. It could be lots of other guys, although I'm by far the best at it. So come to us first, and then I'll ship. I'm just kidding. You know, like the business part of it is important. My dad set up a business-to-business, B2B side, where all the sponsors in DSR would meet at a sponsor summit and say, you have first opportunity to show me your stuff. How do we make it work? And let that be the most important thing, because the advertising, the pretty faces get old, and we get older, and it's like you can do this stuff and say the right things, but you need the companies to work together, make it available for them. And I get asked that by SuperComp people all the time, because you're not going to get that TV coverage that we get. So forget about that. How do you make the business side work, truly work, and to the point where there's a line of people trying to make it work for you, and it's important that you as the driver, you as the team owner are deeply involved. That it's not you're paying someone to go out and bring sponsors. Go do that. If you want to do that, get them there. You need to be the deal closer. You need to be the one that can sit down, explain why the Army stayed for 19 years, maybe even why they left. But you got to be able to talk through the whole situation of, this is how we sold it. This is what we did while we had it. And this is why it was the most successful recruiting tool in the history of the Army. And did they leave? Yeah, they left. But they're 50% down in recruiting now. It was a painful mistake that they did. So we can show those numbers. We can show that stuff. And I think, and I've always been the kind that if another team comes up to me and says, how do you do it? Ask. I'll guide you through it. I have some friends that are newer in the sport trying to put things together, and they ask, how do you keep them coming like that? And I'll tell them the honest to God's truth. I don't need to be taking their deals. What I need to be doing is getting the sport to grow. We need 30 cars out here. We need the youth growing up, getting in these cars, coming out of the alcohol ranks and getting in the top fuel cars. We see that they're good at what they do. And to keep our sport going and growing, we need to really teach people how to go about reaching out and making this work. Those are great questions.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all that advice. Let's go ahead all the way back to the beginning. You talked about it a little bit in the intro of just growing up around all the people that you had a chance to grow up around. Like, what was it like growing up Tony Schumacher, and tell us some of the things that you learned and advice that you want to share.
My first memory in life is standing at 3 years old on my mom's bed listening to Helen Reddy. She was singing. I'm looking out at the playground in a little apartment in Des Plaines. Dad was off racing, and I remember him. He'd come home every now and then. He was out running the Stardust cars and the Wonder Bread cars and going to a race. Maybe when I was 5, seeing some jet cars run. But we moved to Park Ridge, to the house that he grew up in, when I was 10. And up until that point, we lived in Niles, and there were trophies in the basement, a pool table, and an 8-track player. And people would come over still and sit down there, and they played pool and talk about racing because he had just gotten out of it. Correct. And started working at Schumacher Electric and running the family business. And when we moved over and had that race car shop, just a numerous amount of people that would stop by on the way. And I always mention the drivers, but we had Tim Gross, who was my dad's crew chief for a little while, and then drove the Mako funny car. I remember him flipping it over. It was a good Mako commercial, and him coming over with all these different proposals. Here's what I'm doing, Don. Here's what I'm doing. Or Gene Snow, or this guy or that guy. They just come over, and being a kid, we had a video. It's crazy because it wasn't drag racing at all, but there was a video called The Quick and the Dead. And it was a show about Formula One drivers. And it was Stacy Keach, Jackie Stewart. And Jackie Stewart kind of takes you around all the different tracks, but Stacy Keach comes walking out, and I'm 10 years old. And the show starts with, this F1 car crashing, and it's just awful. And he comes out and he's like, these cars, and they are cars, can maybe be driven by 30 men, maybe not that many. And I'm just like, and listen to this guy talk about the machine. At any time, a driver can be cracked like a nut. Or I'm like, wow. This is, and then they're talking, they got their big, hairy chests, European dudes, and they're all F1 guys. And I'm just sitting there just like, oh my God, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And it didn't matter what car. It was just like the power and the people and the music they played in that show. It just hooked me. And growing up just around that, I was not far from Union Grove, Wisconsin, maybe an hour drive. When I turned 16, I was there every day you could be there. Probably should have paid a little more attention to school, but I didn't. And throughout my life, I used that learning in so many of my speeches for the Army, so many times, that, pay attention. When you want to come work for a team or a driver, you need to be able to show me you can get an A+, because I'm going to get buckled in an A+ car and an A+ race against another A+ team. And if you bring a B average, it's just not cutting it. And those were things I learned throughout my life. I could go back. I want to still do what I do, but I wish I could go back and get straight A's. Because throughout the life, I've learned that it's not that hard. The answers are in the book. Like they give you the book. You read the book. The answers are right there. They tell you what day the test is. They tell you what page the answers are on. All you got to do is commit to it. And I think it's a lesson I had to learn, that to be an A+ guy, to be the best at anything, you got to put it all in. And it probably hurts some other aspects of your life. For drivers out there that have gotten to my level and that are trying to, you're going to give up some of your family time. You're going to be gone all the time. Look at the sacrifice you're going to do. I witnessed it growing up because my dad was gone.
Mm-hmm.
I got to see that. And, you go back and you think, well, would you rather see your dad? Oh, I'm happy where I got. But there is sacrifice that goes with getting there. Growing up as a Schumacher or as an anybody, I don't care if it's Walter Payton's family or, it doesn't matter. It's like you could be a Michael Jordan kid. It's just, the dad's going to be gone. They're going to be practicing. The effort that goes into us being really good at what we do. And guess what? The little Justin Ashley's out there strapping 28 trees on us. We're going to be practicing more. It doesn't get better. As the drivers step up, so do we. We have to get it. We have to dig deeper and find ways to motivate ourselves to be better than we ever were.
So you didn't learn that lesson in high school. When did you learn it?
I probably learned it when I blew my funny car body up and I had to get a job. All of a sudden I realized I need to race. I didn't try hard enough in math and science to be an engineer. I put myself in a corner, and I think I was talking with the Sergeant Major of the U.S. Army, Preston, at the time, and he was the Sergeant Major of the Army. And we both sat there and said, how did we get here? Well, we got here because we put ourselves in a corner where we had to be great. We flat out had to be great or we were going to be broke. We had to step up. And I think recognizing it, so many blessed moments in my life, like the run, and people ask about that. And I say, it wasn't the run itself. It was recognizing how big it was, how far back we came from. The run wouldn't have been nothing but another run down the racetrack if we weren't 330 points behind at some point. It was that because of the epic realization of what we came back from. So I think paying attention to your surroundings, paying attention to what's important, because when it is absolutely positively the most important run of your career, you got to be able to step up, and I think going back to your question, it's because I didn't have anything to fall back on that I had to be good at what I did.
Yeah. Tell us again, a little bit more about I remember that too. And, the run, it came down to you literally had to win the race, set the fastest time ever and all the things in order to win the championship. Where, give us a little bit, just a starting point of where that started, but also what mentality you had to get into, what mentality you had to make sure the team was in, just for almost from a team building, team leadership, business, all those things, because it's not just you, right? It's all the people. How does that run happen, with all the people involved?
Well, we had won a couple championships in a row already, and Alan Johnson, I can't remember if it was a new tire, but we just couldn't get the car to go on the racetrack. And keeping it together is the most important thing. Pulling the guys aside and saying, we're going to come back from this. Don't worry about it. We're going to come back from it. It's a learning. It's not like we all got stupid yesterday. It's not like we forgot how to drive race cars. It's not like, so we got the best crew and the best crew chief, and we're all a system that works well. Let's keep focusing. And we got 336 points behind. Now it's 20 points around. And back in the day, you didn't get extra points for making quickest runs. You didn't have a countdown format. It was just you started, and when you got to the end, the guy was the champ with the most points. And I was 336 points back. I can't get in the middle of the year and get it figured out. And we literally started gaining 45 points a race at maybe Columbus. And we get going 45 points towards Doug. And my friends got pointed out, you're getting about 45 points. You know, if you get to Pomona with this, you're going to be 45 points behind them. And I am not kidding. We were 45 points behind them. They come to an interview with me at my house. They said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to go out, qualify number one, set a world record, win the race. I said, however, if Doug Coletta goes out and wins 3 rounds, I can do all that, and I'm still the loser. I'll win the race, but I'm not going to win the championship. And if that happens, I'm going to walk over and I'm going to shake Doug's hand because what an epic year he had. But don't count us out. So we got to Pomona. We qualified number 2. He qualified number 1. But it set up a field where I wasn't even going to race him. And, you know, till the finals. And if I did that, it's over. If he's in the finals, it's over. I called my team out in the morning and I said, let's look at these mountains, man. They're beautiful, beautiful snow-capped mountains, Pomona, California. And I said, 6-8 hours from now, we're going to know if we did this, but I'll be damned if this ain't the greatest team to go into battle with. And that was it. You know, it was like nobody had to lean into my car at any time and say, this is an important run. I didn't have to reach outside and say, are you sure you checked the clutch cover? You know, we all knew exactly what we had to do to be the world champs that day. And to be sitting there afterwards, you know, I wasn't in shock. I wasn't in disbelief. I knew from that morning we were going to pull that off. And I don't know how or why, but I had the right people. And that's the key to the people out there working their way up in the top field, trying to get in a funny car, pro stock, whatever it is. Put yourself around people capable of helping you. Once they do that, your mind's at ease. My mind was at such ease that day. Now I was pacing. Don't get me wrong. It was a huge round. I felt like at that time I was the only one that could lose that deal. If I leave too early, we still set a world record, but I red light, lose the race, lose the championship. If I leave too late, I get beat on a hole shot, car goes out, sets a world record. I put a lot of pressure on myself on that to be right in the middle, just get it down the track. I talked to Alan Johnson. I said, what do you think? He said, there's nothing. He goes, you're not going to win on a hole shot. If you win on a hole shot, we don't win the championship. So don't worry, be calm and cool. And I think that's really important. The discussion before, you know, a great expression that I've heard from I read it somewhere on Facebook. Who knows? You get all this stuff. It said, before every moment, there's a moment. Those moments are important. You know, the pre-moments before something really big has to happen is really important to get yourself in the right mindset that, okay, here's all the things that we've got to have happen right. You know, and I think it's a positive thing. Be calm, be cool, stay shallow, keep the car dead straight. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. Just calm, cool, be a machine, let the car go. Because when that wind light came on, I knew we'd won the race, but I didn't know if we won the championship because back in the day, the scoreboards were behind us. Right, now we're 1,000 feet. We can see those things as we go by, you know, and I went around the corner and the world was going nuts. And I thought, are you serious? You know, like I'm trying to stop a car in Pomona, make a turn, and the world is just upside down going nuts. And I can hear, I think it was Rob Geiger going, you did it. And I'm like, did he say I did it? Or I'm an idiot. I'm still going 200. Like I'm trying to read his lips, you know, and it was just like, what just happened? You know, that you get out and look at your crew. The photo of the crew, my dad, Alan Johnson, the team with their arms up on the start line is probably my favorite photo of all time because of what they had to do to get it. Anyone would have taken that photo and been like, that is the greatest photo of a team who came from behind. You know, it made the fans came up and said, I owe more money for being here. I paid money, and don't get me wrong, NHRA tickets are expensive. All sports are, but I feel like I owe more just because I got to watch that run. That is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was compelling. I watched on TV. It was compelling back in the day. I loved it. You pretty much were an innovator on the marketing side too, and I just remember following this back in the day as a marketing student and just follower of sports marketing. But you know, I followed both the NHRA and the NASCAR Army deal as it was coming along. Like I remember John Hunter Nemechek, who's now a NASCAR driver, you know, his dad Joe Nemechek and John Hunter would have like the little Army uniform and all that. But on the NHRA side with you and your team, you guys sort of just took it to the next level. Like, can you talk about some of the like just the creation of that program, the embodiment of that program, and ...
Yeah, so I was driving for Exide, and we won the championship in '99, and then we got a phone call that Exide was pulling out. And at the time, someone else had called me and said, I have an Army deal or not pending, but out there. And then Exide came back, forgot about that deal. A year goes by, Army comes back. And, I think they were just watching. They had narrowed the sports down to drag racing. They had gone off and looked at every one of them, and they said, our interest is going to be best represented in drag racing. Top Fuel, Funny Car didn't really matter at the time, and they were showing up in Pomona to make Sonoma to make a decision. I knew that, so I had told my team, if Selzy beats me, because we were just kicking each other's butt. We were back then; it was just we were killing each other. Every run was me a little quicker, him a little quicker. It was a battle it was one for the books. And I said, if he beats me, I'm going to shave my head. But I knew my team had no idea. So I go out and I red light against Grubnick in Seattle, driving the Montana Express car. Like, I had no reason to red light. So I sat down and had my whole team shave my head into a flat top.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them did a great job. Some took some scalp. Some of them weren't very good at cutting hair, but Landon McGlizzy finally fixed it. I walked into the meeting with a flat top. And when I say I walked into the meeting, the door was locked in Sonoma. I knock on the door, and they open it, and I walk in. I said, I heard you guys were having your meeting on choosing a driver, and I haven't been in a meeting yet. So how can you pick a driver if you never met me? And with the flat top, and I walked in, and they said, we're changing paths. We were there to tell your dad you weren't going to get it.
Oh, wow.
And General Negretti was back at home with a guy named Colonel Rado. These guys picked up the phone because Tom called from the Army, had called them and said, we're changing drivers. Like, this dude just walked in, looks like a soldier, talks like a soldier, and ain't going to take no for an answer. He's not leaving this trailer until the deal's done, and we got it. And I knew how big that deal was going to be. I knew how big I thought it was going to be. It was bigger than anything anyone could have dreamt of because they jumped in with both feet, and we became the recruiting machine. We went, my job wasn't to sell the Army. My job was to do speeches about growing up, surrounding yourself with the right people, and getting A's. You do all those things. You get to choose what you want to do, and I think that's important. I said, now, if you want to join the Army, they were boasting about 250 jobs in the Army. I said, well, that's not true. There's 250 for the guy who gets an A. Right? There's a guy that gets a C minus, he gets one job, and he's walking everywhere. And that's just the way it is. So we went on that premise, and it was a great speech. And many, many dads along the way came up and said, whatever you said, my kid gets straight A's now. I don't get it. I've been telling them that for years. And it was like, you know what? I'm a race car driver. You're a dad. I'm also a dad, and my kids don't listen to me. But if some other athlete said, we know the world and how it works. If someone like me, an athlete getting in a race car, tells you something like that, it's more real than when your dad says it, unfortunately. But and it went for a long, long time. And it allowed us to go into schools, and the schools didn't feel threatened that the Army was going in. They just felt like you had a race car driver here. And that's how I kept my speeches honest about putting yourself in a class of people that are going to help you get to where you're going to get. And we marketed well. And sponsors, everyone wanted to be on the Army Cup. Not only were we winning, but what was being said was correct. The way the car looked was professional. And the way people respected and treated that car was 100% top notch.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit. Thank you for sharing all that. And I was a huge follower of the program. Like I said, I specifically used the word embodying the program because you did, and you embodied it. Tell us about the relationship with Alan Johnson. And I'm asking that question just because as a fan growing up watching, I remember when Alan left, and it was like, oh, like this is huge, but to start his own team. But tell me a little bit about if that was adversity, what it created within the team, creating new team and different things like that from a leadership standpoint, advice standpoint, business standpoint. What was that like?
Alan was phenomenal to work with. Just one of the best crew chiefs that have ever worked on a top fuel car, engineering wise, advancement wise, calmness, and you knew you were going to go fast, and he put you in that kind of mindset. He also gave me the gift of, when he left, knowing that life doesn't end when someone leaves.
Mm.
You know, for a few days it was like, what? You're taking the whole team? This is a rough gig. And you know, people were out there saying, don't worry about it. You'll have Mike Green. You'll finish number 2 at least. And I'm like, okay. I never set out to be number 2, but that's what you think. And we came out. Mike Green shows up to do the first test session. I knew Mike. He worked with Corey Mack, and I knew him a little bit. Had a conversation or two with him before that, but we went to start the car the first time, and it didn't start.
Oh, wow.
And I went, okay, I just won 6 championships in a row, or 7, and the car didn't start. And I laughed, and I got out of the car, and I said, okay, I'm doing a world champ speech at the end of the year. And when I do it, I'm bringing this up, that it didn't start. And everyone laughed, and we went out and won the championship. You know, the first time we ran against Ellen Johnson, Dixon was driving, we beat him. It was a good race. The second time we beat him. Like it was, we knew it had to happen. And because they made those comments, it made us all step up. And and we won another championship against them with Mike Green. So now we have Mike Neff. We had him before too, 2018, and we finished number 2. We were gaining strength, you know, like gaining speed, gaining momentum. And I think when it came to last year and us making a change, I said, it's going to take a little time. Mike's not going to come from a funny car, task his car over here and just hit it. We have all brand new parts, new timers, stuff that hasn't seen flows, nothing's moved. And it's going to take us a little time. And we're a little lost because we're using parts from DSR that we hadn't gotten them to work yet. So this year we said, take them all off. Take the chassis, go back to what everyone else is running. It's a DSR chassis, the length of everyone else, all just put it back, and now we're going fast. And then, you know, would we have figured the other one out? We always will figure it out, but not in the time span we needed. We gave up a year, and that was a painful year, but nobody left the team. Nobody got fired. Nobody quit. They came and they said, we understand this is not easy, and we'll get through it, but this is a team we want to win with, and that's an important thing, because when it all comes down at the end and we're fighting for a championship, it will have been worth it.
Yeah. Tell us about any of the other adversities between last year, this year, or just the past couple of years, and coming back and getting to where you've been.
Well, trying to put a team together, you know, trying to find a sponsor when you're out. I had so many good people, so many very well-off people trying to help me, and I appreciate that. It kept me positive. You know, I'm a JP, you know, John Paul DeJoria, literally making phone calls for me. What a great guy that is. You know, he's not my dad, he's not my uncle, but he wanted me out there, and you know, Salinas and all them guys were like, we need you out here, you know, and I appreciated that. So it helped me and kept me positive. I'm just a never give up kind of guy. I just make phone calls, and to the point where my wife goes, you know, you're going to lose some friends. You make a lot of phone calls. I go, I do, but I need them to see what I see. If they do, they're going to love the sport. And I just kept battling. But I've been through it before. Look, I went over a wall at 300 miles an hour, right? Drove with a broken leg, and then really had a chance to win that championship. That was 2000. Me and Sells were just slaughtering each other every run. Might have won the championship. Finished number 2. And then for the next 2 years, we can't get the car down the racetrack. I mean, you know, so I went from winning the championship, leading the points, maybe bouncing back and forth between leading and 45 points back with Selzy, to this car won't go down the racetrack. And, you know, I had just crashed. So it's like, wow, you know, people were thinking, do I not like being there? Or is it just was the way it was. Whatever changed in the cars changed at the wrong time. So I had been through it. And I think the key is I love racing so much. Like, I can't think of a day that I don't want to race. You know, like, I enjoyed being there. And it's not just the wins. The trophies are beautiful. They're everywhere in this house. They look gorgeous. It's about how to get there. And part of my enjoyment is the fight, figuring it out, getting through the adversity. Because when you do win, and ultimately we will, it's going to be a throwdown party. We're going to enjoy it. And by the way, we know where to get our bourbon, don't we?
We know where to go. I'll be there too. JT is good too. What were the 3 years off like?
I started a credit card processing business. As weird as that sounds, and here's why. I literally said to my friend who did my credit card processing, merchant stuff, I said, I have an idea. If you're as good as you say at doing it, then let's go to the big companies, Sport Clips, something like that. And if we can save them $1 million, they can give it back to us. And it started the process. And what it's done for me is it's made it where I have a company that I built. So up till that point, we had Schumacher Electric, which my grandfather started, but my dad really built. I mean, my dad took that thing from a from a nice company to a huge company. But there's no way as someone like me step in there after it's that big. We own 98% of the market in battery chargers. What did I have to gain? 2%, or I could lose 98. That is not something I wanted anything to do with. And nor was I taught how to do it. I was on the road my whole life. I wasn't prepared for that. So starting a little company, gaining business day by day, being broke most of the time until years later, it made me a better person in every way. It made me learn a lot about life. You know, you can grow up in a nice fancy house and end up in a place where you got to work really hard to get back there. So I really respect all the choices that I was stuck with, that I had to make, and now I have a fantastic business with Rack Financial. You know, like you do credit cards, give us a call. We take that and we do a great job. And it's helped us to go to companies now and go, wait, you can race on a car for free if you're big enough. We can knock off whatever fees we need to. You know what I mean? So it's just helped me. You know, yeah. and it hurt for the first couple of years. My family stuck together. They, you know, my wife carried me through that. She was super great support group. I mean, I can't tell people enough about when you're hurting and down. A lot of people leave. You know, a lot of people leave. There's very few people that, like Summer and her family, that get behind you and say, we'll carry you. You'll get there. You know, and push and push and push, and built that business with me. So pretty cool. You know, you learn a lot about friends when you're down.
Yeah. So how do we find out about the finance company?
Rackfinancial.com, man. Just credit card processing. It's super easy. Kerry Flanders is the owner.
How do you spell it? I'm sorry.
RAC Financial.
RAC. Cool.
Yep,
Perfect.
RAC.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, are you ready to get into the last segment?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. It's called Put Up Your Dukes. We have about 13 questions. It's not exact. We didn't get straight A's, but we're working on that part. 13 questions, 1 minute answers each. International Motorsports Hall of Famer Tony Schumacher. Are you ready to put up your dukes?
I am ready to put up my dukes.
All right, let's go. Question number 1. What is the strength of Tony Schumacher?
ADHD personality. I can lose one day, and with 15 minutes, I've forgotten that happened. That's just my strength. I think it's important. What makes you great at some things make you a little weak at other things. But you know, forgetting what you did wrong and remembering the things you did right.
Biggest weakness?
Lights. I am not the fastest leader. I've never pushed it. I've had 2 red lights in 15 or 20 years. It's not my strength, to say the least.
Biggest opportunity?
When Peak Brothers offered me a job after offering it to Selzy, flying down there, and I know that, you know, my dad and all that, those are big opportunities, but for a couple of guys that didn't know me to say, get in my top fuel car, that's pretty special, man. Life-changing for me in every way.
Biggest threat?
Biggest threat? I think my biggest threat, well, God, that's a good question. Biggest threat. Baby, what's my biggest threat?
Phone a friend.
He says sharks. I call a friend. Yeah, no, lack of integrity, and not by me. I think my biggest threat is you go out and you bring something big, and people that should have integrity don't. That's a threat to me. It makes me fear and be defensive of bringing people to the table.
Most overrated and underrated part about being International Motorsports Hall of Famer Tony Schumacher?
Most overrated. Oh gosh.
And underrated.
Man, you got good questions here. Most overrated.
You said you were ready to put up your Dukes.
I am. Shit, my Dukes are up. That's a good question. Most overrated. Question about overrated thing about being in the International Hall of Fame.
She can come on in too.
Come here, baby. You want to see a beautiful? You want to see my strength? Come here. Come on. She says no. She looks gorgeous today too. I don't know which way this would go. The fact that I think it's a few hundred people have to vote. That's underrated, I guess, right? I mean, that's a big deal. People don't know about it. They just name a name. They go, "You're named." But the fact that people from all different divisions had to accept and put you in the Hall of Fame is a big thing to me. I'm gonna have to come back to the other one, man. I can't think of an overrated thing. I think it should come with a car. Think it should come with a car? I guess if I didn't have a car, I wouldn't have a. Never mind. Let's get.
You get to answer the question or pick what's behind door number 3.
Right.
Biggest mental hurdle.
Still lights. Reaction, like I sit in a practice tree all day long. Got one up top, looks just like my car. It's actually one of our cars. And I can hit that gas all day long. I don't understand how some people can do it quicker than me. I practice. It's a mental hurdle for me, but once the cars start, you tend to forget that stuff. But it's an easy way to screw up, everything. Because once you start thinking about any particular part of a car, you're not reacting to it. And I think I'm glad that I have Zippy, who's a past driver, to sit there and go, "Quit thinking, you idiot. It's not a think thing. It's a reaction thing."
Here's a question that you're great at. What's the last thing that you have to say to the younger generation, the guys younger than you?
Don't rush. Don't hurry. Enjoy the game. Play the game. I think it's really important. And when I was at St. John's Military Academy in Delafield, Wisconsin, there's a beacon that we had to salute. When we walked by it, on one side of it had 4 different things on it. One of them said, "Play the game." So instead of rushing to get in the top fuel, your win light and super comp comes on, enjoy it. Your win light don't mean any less than my win light. And I think everyone's always in a hurry, and you forget to enjoy the part that you're doing right now. So enjoy the game.
So what's the last thing that you have to say to the older generation, the guys that came before you?
Thank you. You built us a hell of a sport. I intend on keeping the game going until the next generation steps in and does the same for me.
How about to your peers?
I'm not done yet.
And final question.
Thank you for making me better. You guys make me better. You've made me sit up in the seat. There was a long time with that Army car where no one was going to touch me. You're making me better at what I do. So thank you.
Last and final question is what's just your personal or business ask from the people watching the show?
Enjoy the show and take lessons from people that have done it and throw lessons out there. I've always been one to throw every idea on the table. And you never know who around you is going to hear the idea and be able to complement that idea and make it better. I spoke to Boeing years ago, and I said, "Bob, you work for Bob, and Bill, you work for Bill. But who doesn't? Neither one of you are working for Boeing here. If you throw your ideas on the table, maybe Bill can help with Bob's idea. Maybe Bob can help with Bill's idea, and that space shuttle is going to fly straighter." I think it's an important lesson. I hope I read that question right, but that's important to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, thank you so much for being thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for your Hall of Fame career. Thank you for all the stuff you've taught us on a marketing side just by embodying partnership. again, obviously our condolences for your dad. And yeah, just thank you so much.
Anytime, guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, International Motorsports Hall of Famer Tony Schumacher. Thank you guys for joining us here on another episode of Drag Illustrated's The Racing Business. We'll see you back next week. Take care.